Winona, ayy, Winona be lit, Winona the shit.
Winona Ryder, born Winona Laura Horowitz, was named jointly after the nearby town of Winona, Minnesota, and after the wife of her father's friend Aldous Huxley. Her stage name Ryder comes from the musician Mitch Ryder, of whom her father was a big fan. She came into the world on October 29, 1971, in Olmsted County, Minnesota. Her mother, Cynthia Estes Palmer, was an author and video producer. Her father, Michael Horowitz, also an author, as well as a publisher, editor, and book salesman. He was most notable for working as the archivist for psychedelic guru Dr. Timothy Leary. She had a younger brother named Yuri Horowitz, named after Yuri Gagarin, the first Soviet cosmonaut. She also had an older half-brother named Jabal Palmer, and an older half-sister, Senyata Palmer. And let us not forget Timothy, who was a staple in Winona's life from birth. A few days after she was born, he and Winona's father Michael were on a ski trip together, when Tim was asked to be Winona's godfather. Timothy Leary was a psychologist and writer known for advocating the exploration of the therapeutic potential of psychedelic drugs under controlled conditions. He was especially known for the experiments he conducted under the Harvard psilocybin project in 1960 to 1962. LSD and psilocybin were not yet considered to be illegal in the United States. It's been speculated that these trials were funded by the CIA as an extension of the MKUltra program. It's well known that the CIA introduced LSD to the United States after it was developed in a Swiss lab by Dr. Albert Hofmann.
How did it taste? It had no taste. How did it look? Colorless.
2 hours later.
It seems to me, you see, I should like to find the words because I can ordinarily find them. But it seems to me that, I can't seem to want to say what I want to say. And there are times when I feel exactly what I know that I know what I'm doing, you see. Well, I do.
Winona always looked up to Tim, and found she could confide in him, and he would always encourage her positively. When he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, Winona took time off work to help look after him. Aldous Huxley, who was also a close friend of the family, was a well-known English writer and philosopher who wrote almost 50 books. He was a humanist and a pacifist, who was also very interested in spiritual subjects such as parapsychology and universalism. His experience with mescaline inspired his book, The Doors of Perception. Later, he and Michael Horowitz co-authored a book entitled Moksha. Another of the group, notable in this specific realm, was writer and beat poet Allen Ginsberg. He was best known for his poem Howl, and throughout the 60s took an active role in the demystification of LSD alongside Dr. Timothy Leary. He was also a huge advocate for gay rights. He too documented his experiences with psychedelics in written form. A large portion of Winona's childhood was spent in Colombia with Chilean revolutionaries. A dictatorship was established after the democratically elected socialist government of Salvador Allende was overthrown by a United States CIA-backed coup d'etat on the 11th of September in 1973. In 1978, when Winona was 7, her and her family moved to a 300-acre commune alongside 7 other families in Mendocino County, San Francisco. They were a genuine hippie commune, seeing no need for electricity or other luxuries. They were also a part of a cult-like group called the Rainbow Family of Living Light, later shortened to the Rainbow Family. They focused on the principles of nonviolence and egalitarianism. Winona took a great interest in reading during this time. her favorite novel being J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. She had had very little exposure to outside media beyond that, aside for the handful of films her mother would play on a projector in a barn. This is what inspired her to pursue acting, most specifically Sarah Miles' performance in Ryan's Daughter, released in 1970. Winona's early exposure to literary figures stands out in many of her films, where she's generally playing some extension of that, a journalist, reporter, writer, or simply a teen writing in her journal or diary. She also took great interest in films that were adaptations of novels. In 1981, at the age of 10, Winona and her family relocated to Petaluma, California. During her first week at Kenilworth Junior High, she was perceived as an effeminate boy. I was wearing an old Salvation Army shop boy suit. As I went to the bathroom, I heard people saying, "Hey, They slammed my head into a locker. I fell to the ground and they started to kick the shit out of me. I had to have stitches. The school kicked me out, not the bullies." She was expelled for what the school claimed was her own safety. I was homeschooled from then on. At 12, Winona nearly drowned, which caused her to develop aquaphobia. It was at Dillon Beach in Northern California, where she got caught in the undertow. It sounds very dramatic, but I was under for a long time. Luckily for me, a lifeguard pulled me out. I didn't have a pulse, and he had to pump the water out of my lifeless body. Shortly after this near-death experience, she joined Amnesty International, helping to fight for human rights for people in third world countries. As a teen, Winona attended a public junior high school, where the bullying continued. In 1985, at the age of 15, Winona videotaped a monologue from the novel Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger, as an audition for the movie Desert Bloom. Although she wasn't chosen for that part, writer/director David Seltzer requested for her to appear in the movie called Lucas, a romantic comedy released in March of 1986. It was about a boy and his life in high school. The lead character Lucas was played by Corey Haim, and co-starred Charlie Sheen and Cary Green. Ryder played Rena, one of Lucas's friends, and this is where her stage name Winona Ryder was decided upon. In his book, released in 2013, Corey Feldman, a close colleague to Haim within the industry, claims that Haim was abused on the set of Lucas. He alleges that an adult male on set had told Haim that it was normal for older men and younger boys in the business to have sexual relations. He states that the man later took Haim between two trailers and sexually assaulted the then 14-year-old actor. Feldman claims that the man who committed this vicious crime is still alive and is one of the most successful people in the industry. In February of 1987, Winona appeared in the American drama film Square Dance, based on the novel of the same name. She was cast as a 13-year-old who bridges the gap between two worlds, a country girl in the big city. Her performance for the role was critically acclaimed, with the LA Times noting it as a remarkable debut. Both films, however, did poorly at the box office. Later this year, director Tim Burton chose Winona to appear in the fantasy comedy Beetlejuice, released in March of 1988. Ryder was cast as Lydia Dietz, whose family moves into a haunted house occupied by ghosts played by Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. The boogeyman-type character, named Beetlejuice, was played by Michael Keaton. Lydia befriends the two ghosts and joins in on their situation with Beetlejuice. This film was a hit among critics, as well as commercially successful, earning nearly $75 million. Winona reflects on how her acting career collided with her troubles with kids at school. "Oh, it's Beetlejuice, like the #1 movie. This is going to make things great at school." But it made things worse. They called me a witch. In a more recent interview, Winona shares an anecdote regarding her bullies. "Years later, I went to a coffee shop, and I ran into one of the girls who'd kicked me, and she said, 'Winona, Winona, can I have your autograph?' And I said, 'Do you remember me? Remember in 7th grade you beat up that kid?' And she said, 'Kind of.' And I said, 'That was me. Go f*** yourself.'" Released in October 1988, Winona appeared in the dark comedy Heathers. The film portrayed a satirical view of teenage life, centering on the character Veronica, played by Winona, was put between a rock and a hard place regarding her love for her boyfriend, played by Christian Slater, and the fact that he began eliminating the popular students at their school. Her agent had begged Ryder not to take this role, as he was concerned that she would ruin her career. However, contrary to his negative belief, her performance was widely embraced, and reviews were quite positive. The Washington Post claimed it was Hollywood's most impressive ingenue. Ryder makes us love her teenage murderess. A bright, funny girl with little Bonnie Parker in her. She's the most likable, best-drawn young adult protagonist since The Sexual Innocence of Gregory's Girl. The film was a box office failure, but became a predominant cult classic to this day. Winona and her co-star Christian Slater reportedly struck up a romance between 1988 and 1989 while working on the film. Released the following month, in November of 1988, Winona was cast as Beth Carr in the drama film 1969. She was the girlfriend of Scott Denny, played by Kiefer Sutherland, and sister of Robert Downey Jr. as Ralph Carr. The film focuses on the Vietnam War and the social tension between those who supported and those who opposed the war. Think flower children / hippie movement. In April 1989, Winona was the main focus for the music video for Mojo Nixon's Debbie Gibson is Pregnant with My Two-Headed Love Child.
Hey, that dog, he must die.
Released in June of 1989, Winona appeared in the biographical drama Great Balls of Fire, alongside Dennis Quaid and again Alec Baldwin, based on the autobiography of the same name written by Myra Gale Brown, the former wife of musician Jerry Lee Lewis. Winona, cast as Myra, was wed to Jerry, who was also her cousin, at the tender age of 13. The film follows Jerry's rise to fame and how the scandalous marriage effectively ended his career. It was a complete box office flop and received mixed reviews. It was said that Winona had met Johnny Depp at the premiere for this movie, when it was more likely they had met during the filming of Lucas, when Winona, 15, was working alongside Courtney Thorne-Smith, who had a brief fling with Johnny during this time. Ryder was meant to appear in Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather Part 3, but withdrew from the role of Mary Corleone due to exhaustion. In October of 1990, alongside Jeff Daniels as Denton Webb in comedy drama Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael, Winona played 15-year-old Dinky Bassetti, who was adopted as a baby, then later struggles with her lack of gender conformity, to the behest of her mother Rochelle. She takes solace in a beached cabin boat that she refers to as the Ark. This film was virtually unnoticed by critics, and suffered a roughly $10 million loss. Released in December of 1990, Winona was cast as Charlotte Flax, a narrator of The Mermaids. Charlotte was an awkward 15-year-old living in Oklahoma with her single mother, Rachel Flax, played by Cher, and 9-year-old sister Kate, played by Christina Ricci. Charlotte falls for 26-year-old school bus driver Lou Lansky. Mermaids was a box office success and received great praise. Chicago Sun-Times wrote, Winona Ryder, in another of her alienated outsider roles, generates real charisma. Winona later starred in the Shoop Shoop Song music video for the Mermaids theme song, alongside Cher and Christina Ricci. Also released in this year, in December, and reunited with Tim Burton as the director, Winona starred in the timeless classic Edward Scissorhands. It's described as a dark fantasy romance, and she plays the role of teenage daughter Kim, who is met with an artificial man named Edward, played by Johnny Depp, who was brought home by her mother. He was an unfinished experiment, and had pairs of scissors instead of hands. He eventually falls for Kim, and the film follows the triumphs and tribulations of the obscure and misunderstood character that is Edward Scissorhands. The movie was a significant box office hit, earning almost $90 million worldwide, and the adoration of many critics and fans. It was during the filming of Edward Scissorhands that Winona, who would have just turned 18, began dating Depp, who at the time was 26. They claimed it was love at first sight. Depp described the moment as a classic glance, like the zoom lenses in West Side Story, and everything else gets foggy. Whether he was referring to when she was 15 or closer to 17 is very unclear. The two had officially met privately at Chateau Marmont, arranged by a mutual friend. Notable figures that took residency here were Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski in 1969, and Jim Morrison in 1970. Billy Wilder, Hunter S. Thompson, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Tim Burton, and many others have produced work from within the hotel's walls. The late and great John Belushi was found dead in Bungalow 3 on March 5, 1982, after having been supplied a speedball intravenously by Kathy Smith. She was charged with involuntary manslaughter and 3 drug charges. Johnny and Winona's first actual date was at Timothy Leary's house. One can just imagine what that entailed. Johnny proposed a mere 5 months into their official relationship. Winona was only 19 years old. There's been nothing in my 27 years that's been comparable to the feeling I have with Winona. He had Winona Forever tattooed on his shoulder to show he was committed to the relationship. It now says Wino Forever. He said to have removed it would have been to act as though it had never happened. The couple began living together in 1991. Depp had once sent 200 packets of Winona's favorite ramen noodles to her hotel room when she was working on a film. Regardless of Depp's romantic encouragement, Winona soon checked herself into a hospital for depression, anxiety, and exhaustion as a result from her constantly working on films. In October of 1991, Matthew Sweet released the song Winona on his 3rd album entitled Girlfriend. He confessed to naming the song after Winona Ryder, although the two never dated. In December of 1991, Ryder starred as a tomboy taxicab driver named Corky in the LA segment of Night on Earth. The part of Corky was written specifically for Winona by Jim Jarmusch. The film had a limited release, but had a great response from critics.
I need that leg.
Sorry.
Just...
Sorry.
yeah.
You in?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, shit.
What? What's wrong?
Nothing.
Released in November of 1992, a feature that had been brought to Francis Ford Coppola's attention by Winona, joined by Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker and Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Ryder played both roles of Count Dracula's reincarnated love interest, Mina Murray, and Dracula's past lover, Princess Elisabetta. Winona later claimed that due to Romanian customs, and since a real Romanian priest was used in the ceremony, her and Keanu were officially married during filming. "We actually got married in Dracula. No, I swear to God, I think we're married in real life. In that scene, Francis used a real Romanian priest. We shot the master and he did the whole thing, so I think we're married." Coppola corroborated her story, saying, "This is pretty authentic, and I think very beautiful, because we actually did the ceremony and had the priest do the ceremony. So in a sense, when we were all done, we realized that Keanu and Winona really are married as a result of this scene and this ceremony." In 1992, Winona appeared in the music video Love Song for a Vampire for artist Annie Lennox. In 1993, Winona appeared in the music video Locked Out by Crowded House. In the video, Winona plays a woman running away from a man, which perfectly coincided with her and Depp calling off their engagement in June of 1993. Shortly after, Winona was diagnosed with anticipatory anxiety, and her doctor prescribed her sleeping pills. She spent the next 2 weeks in her hotel room, drinking screwdrivers from the minibar and smoking cigarettes while listening to Tom Waits. She was quickly brought back to reality after falling asleep with a lit cigarette. One night, I fell asleep with a lit cigarette and woke up to the flames. I haven't visited that dark side since. That was what you might say, my wake-up call. Winona says Johnny was her very first heartbreak, and that he'll always be very dear to her. When I met Johnny, I was a pure virgin. He changed that. He was my first everything, my first real kiss, my first real boyfriend, my first fiancé, the first guy I had sex with. So he'll always be in my heart forever. Fairly shortly after her split with Depp, Winona started dating the Soul Asylum frontman David Pirner. Dave, after his recent success with the band's song Runaway Train, had left his wife of 13 years in order to date Winona. The two had met while Soul Asylum was taping their Unplugged special for MTV a couple years prior. In September of 1993, Winona appeared in Martin Scorsese's film, The Age of Innocence, alongside Michelle Pfeiffer and Daniel Day-Lewis. It was a historical romance drama adapted from a 1920s novel of the same name. Set in the 1870s in New York and Paris, Winona plays May Welland, the fiancée of Newland Archer, played by Day-Lewis. She won Best Actress in a Supporting Role, and the film earned the Best Adapted Screenplay, among others. In October of 1993, Winona was joined by a star-studded cast including Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, and Antonio Banderas in the old world drama film The House of the Spirits, based on the 1982 novel La Casa de los Espíritus, about a young lady named Clara during the dictatorship in Chile. Winona played Blanca, the love interest of Pedro, who was played by Antonio. This film garnered some awards, but suffered an over $30 million loss. Ryder was set to co-star in the film Broken Dreams, alongside River Phoenix. Unfortunately, production of the film was put on hold until decades later, due to the untimely death of 23-year-old Phoenix on October 31st, 1993. January of 1994, Winona appeared in the romantic comedy drama called Reality Bites. The film was produced by Danny DeVito. It was directed by and also starred Ben Stiller, as well as Ethan Hawke and Janine Garofalo. The plot follows Lelena, played by Ryder, an aspiring videographer working on a documentary called Reality Bites, about the lives of her friends and roommates, exemplifying the lifestyle choices made by Generation X. Both of her brothers took part. The film received mixed reviews, but was a moderate commercial success. It later achieved cult status. First aired September 11th, 1994, Winona made a guest appearance in The Simpsons, in the episode titled Lisa's Rival, as Allison Taylor, who is very similar to Lisa.
Oh, all right.
Columbus was looking for a passage to India.
Oh, Correct, Allison. And on your very first day in our class.
And during a subsequent voyage, Columbus found what is now the continent of South America.
Yowie.
I never made Miss Hoover yowie.
Late 1994, in the family drama film Little Women, an adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's 1868 novel of the same name, Winona co-starred as Josephine Marsh, alongside Samantha Mathis, Kirsten Dunst, Claire Danes, Christian Bale, and Susan Sarandon. The film was dedicated to Polly Klaas, who was kidnapped and brutally murdered, and began the Polly Klaas Foundation. The film was a major success among critics, although it was only moderately successful in the box office. In October of 1995, she appeared in the drama How to Make an American Quilt, based on the 1991 novel of the same name by Whitney Otto. Once again, alongside Samantha Mathis, Winona took the lead as Finn Dodd, a recent graduate who retreats to her grandmother's to contemplate her boyfriend's recent proposal. Other notable appearances in this film were Rip Torn and Maya Angelou. It gained little attention from critics, in spite of its $30 million in earnings.
This makes Sam nervous. He thinks I'm leaving because last night he proposed to me. Sam's great, and I really love him. And I'm 26. This is not an unreasonable age to get married, especially if you found your possible soulmate.
Also in 1995, Winona voiced the audiobook of The Diary of Anne Frank. In 1996, after moving out to Minneapolis with David Perner for a time, the couple decided to part ways. Neither Dave or Winona commented on the split or provided any particular details. Released in May of 1996, Ryder co-starred in the film Boys, originally titled The Girl You Want, alongside Lucas Haas. It follows a boarding school attendee, John Baker, played by Haas, who rescues Patty Vare, played by Winona, which turns John's life upside down. They then embark on a journey of love and self-discovery. Winona had reportedly hated the script and tried to get out of the contract. Touchstone Pictures threatened to sue, so she reluctantly finished the film. It had extremely poor critical reception and was a complete failure commercially. On May 31st, 1996, Winona's godfather Timothy Leary passed away at the age of 75, after struggling with inoperable prostate cancer for well over a year. His death was videotaped for posterity at his request, by Dennis Barry and Joey Cavella, capturing his final words. Several grams of Leary's ashes were sent into space aboard a rocket carrying the remains of 23 others by a company called Celestis. Later, other portions of his ashes were given to friends and family. Susan Sarandon brought her share of ashes to the Burning Man Festival, where they were put into an art installation that was burned ceremoniously, September 6, 2015.
The energies that you run into when you take LSD, the visions that you get, are not supernatural and they're not pathological. These are ancient biological messages which are stored in your nervous system and in the cells of your body. When you take LSD, you go out of your mind. You go beyond words, you go beyond symbols, you go beyond the 20th century, because 99% of your brain doesn't know that you or the 20th century exists. Namaste. I salute the God within you.
In October of 1996, Winona appeared in Al Pacino's documentary film entitled Looking for Richard. This was Pacino's directorial debut, exploring Shakespeare's Richard III, as well as Shakespeare's impact on culture and society as a whole. Other featured stars included Kevin Spacey, Kevin Conway, and Alec Baldwin. It was not an official release and was mainly presented at film festivals. Also in October of 1996, Winona voiced herself on the show Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist, in Season 3, Episode 2, called Monte Carlo.
Do you have any Kleenex?
Sure, help yourself.
Maybe you should...
No, I'm good, thanks. Oh, right. Oh. Has that been there the whole time we've been talking?
Yeah.
Because I apologize if that's... See, that's why I'm still hungry.
Released in December of 1996, she starred in the film adaptation of Arthur Miller's The Crucible as Abigail Miller. Abigail attempts to frame the wife of her ex-lover John Proctor, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, for being a witch in the middle of the 1692 Salem witch trials. This film was also poorly received by both critics and the box office. Released in November of 1997, Winona was cast in the sci-fi horror Alien Resurrection, also known as Alien 4. She starred alongside Sigourney Weaver and Ron Perlman. This was the final installment of the original series, set 200 years after Alien 3. This film was the least successful of its series, however it still earned over $150 million worldwide. Critics also gave major praise to both Ryder's and Weaver's performances. Winona went on to win a Blockbuster Entertainment Award for Best Actress. Yes, that Blockbuster. Blockbuster Video. During the filming for Alien, Winona ended up facing her fear of going underwater during the flooded elevator scene. Winona and Matt Damon were introduced at a party on New Year's Eve of 1997 by Winona's then best friend, Gwyneth Paltrow, who was dating Matt's best friend, Ben Affleck. They hit it off and began a relationship. The two were very low-key about their relationship and would arrive to events separately, aside from the Golden Globes. In March of 1998, Winona appeared on The Larry Sanders Show as herself in the episode entitled Another List. Mid-1998, Winona appeared in the music video Talk About the Blues by John Spencer Blues Explosion. Released in November of 1998, in the comedy drama Celebrity, directed by Woody Allen, Winona was joined once again by a star-studded cast exploring the life of Lee Simon, an unsuccessful writer who decides to pursue celebrity journalism after the divorce from his wife Robin. He experiences both professional and sexual encounters along the way, but his insecurities and fame-seeking creates a cycle of self-sabotage. Other notable stars who appeared in this film were Leonardo DiCaprio, Judy Davis, Charlize Theron, and Hank Azaria.
I heard you just finished a novel. Congratulations.
Regardless of the cast, it was considered a magnificent disappointment by both critics and the box office. Released November of 1999, in the South Park movie Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Winona was parodied. This was the benchmark of meme status. If you got cut up on South Park, you were very socially relevant.
In the meantime, here's Pine-Size Pixie and darling of the indie movie scene, Winona Ryder!
Hi, guys. I'm super psyched to be here today. What you're doing for our country is so cool. I mean war, man. Wow. War. You know? Wow. Okay, and now for your enjoyment, here's my famous ping pong ball trick.
Oh my!
Dude, did you hear what Winona Ryder's doing? We can't miss this.
There, I didn't miss one. That's my ping pong ball trick.
Along with this, she had gained a cult status in her own personal right. She had grown quite an obsessed following of different forms of stalkers and Winona enthusiasts.
Oh, hey, Winona. Hi, Winona. Hi, Winona. This is the Park Next Fun Committee coming to you live from this nook in the basement of the William Kingston Complex in Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Dudley was voted by the readers of Cosmopolitan magazine as one of the most sensitive bachelors for 2003. Currently, Dudley's been dating Winona Ryder.
Okay, there's a song I wrote about Winona Ryder called Sweet Winona. doo-wop. Doo-wop, doo-wop, doo-wop. Doo-wop, doo-wop, doo-wop.
Many musicians considered Winona their muse, writing and naming songs after her, many without ever having met her. For example, Primus, Winona's Big Brown Beaver,
Winona's got herself a big brown beaver and she shows him off to all her friends. One day you know that beaver tried to leave her, so she gave him up a cyclone fence. Along came Lou with the old baboons and recognized that smell. It smells like 7-Eleven. That beaver ain't got
and Fall Out Boy, She's My Winona. As well as some low-budget fan videos such as Palmer, Winona Ryder, and Mike Meyer, Sweet Winona. Some do not officially state their song had anything to do with Ryder, but it's pretty interesting how many songs make use of the name Winona in general. There's also a handful of tribute bands, such as Winona and the Ryders. It's actually really weird how many musical references there are to Winona. There are dozens of popular and underground bands with Winona songs.
Winona has pitch black hair, brown and like a dough. She can't put any clothes anywhere. Winona, such a good actress, like in the cinema. I must confess she's the best.
I invite you to search Winona song on YouTube and see for yourself. There's not really any specific explanation as to why this is, so if anyone can come up with one, I'm all ears. Winona even had one man go so far as to try and get on as an extra on all her movies, just so he could get close to her. There's also an obscure group that chronicles all the parts in movies in which she is smoking. This could either be a fetish, or the fact that it's taboo and she was always smoking in films. Censorship radicalists versus sexually perverse, who knows? Winona is quite the fangirl herself, and is obsessed with Hollywood star collector's items and costumes. In December of 1999, after 3 years of production and post, Girl Interrupted was released. It was based on the autobiography of the same title written by Susanna Kaysen. Ryder was especially focused and attached to this film, that she had not only starred in, but served as the executive producer. She considered it her child of the heart. Winona starred alongside Whoopi Goldberg as Nurse Valerie, Brittany Murphy, a patient named Daisy who was sexually abused and struggling with bulimia and OCD, and Angelina Jolie as a patient named Lisa, a diagnosed sociopath.
You lie down, you confess your secrets, and you're saved. Ka-ching!
Making a brief appearance, Jared Leto played as Susanna's boyfriend, Toby. Winona played the role of Susanna, an 18-year-old diagnosed with borderline personality disorder whom tried to end her own life.
Hold on, dear.
Give her 5 milligrams of Valium IV.
You got your angel?
Want to do a CBC? Put her head so she doesn't aspirate.
There you go.
Aspirin fragments and vodka, thanks.
And decided to stay voluntarily at the Claymore Psychiatric Facility. She develops a relationship with a handful of the other patients, the closest being with Jolie, cast as Lisa Rowe.
Bald guy with a little pecker and a fat wife. You're therapist, Sweepy. Unless they're giving you shocks. Or God forbid letting you out. Then you get to see the great, wonderful Dr. Dyke.
Lisa had been in the facility since she was 9 years old. She is charismatic, rebellious, and abusive. Lisa hijacks Susanna's mental health by leading her out on one of her infamous escape plans after encouraging resistance to medication and therapy.
All right, listen, tongue your meds tonight. After 1 o'clock checks, Greta always goes out for a smoke. Check the mirrors, and if they're clear, you go down to Hector's closet.
What are we doing?
Come on.
Susanna learns quickly that Lisa has been manipulating her as well as emotionally abusing her and the others.
My father loves me. I bet. With every inch of Oh, God. I'm going to sleep now.
The film received mixed reviews and had mediocre box office results, but Jolie went on to win an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and a Screen Actors Guild Award. Later, in an interview, Ryder reveals that it actually took about 7 years to get this film to screen, between reading the book, the difficulties to secure the rights to the film adaptation, and then going into agreements for production. In late 1999, Winona started her own music company called Roustabout Studios. Winona accompanied Matt Damon to the Golden Globes in the year 2000. They became engaged, but broke up later this year. Winona only had good things to say about the split, saying he couldn't be a greater, nicer guy. In August 2000, Winona co-starred in the romantic drama film Autumn in New York, alongside Richard Gere and Vera Farmiga. The plot follows a middle-aged Will Keane, a restaurant owner played by Gere, who falls in love with a much younger woman named Charlotte, played by Ryder, who also happens to be terminally ill. The film was quite successful in the box office, earning over $90 million worldwide, although it received mixed reviews. October 2nd, 2000, Winona played Fran on the TV show Strangers with Candy, on the very last episode of the show, entitled The Last Temptation of Blank. Also in October of 2000, Winona co-starred alongside Elias Koteas in the religious horror film Lost Souls. Ryder was cast as a nun named Maya Larkin, who was part of a secret society connected to the Catholic Church, who were determined to prevent Armageddon. Winona had refused to do any commercial promotion for the film, which may have contributed to its extreme commercial failure. Lastly, and also in October of the year 2000, Ryder received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Winona had allegedly dated Beck briefly after Damon, and he then went on to write several songs about her that appear on his album Sea of Change. However, Winona later admits that this was just a rumor, and the songs he wrote for her were a coincidence. In April of 2001, she appeared on the hit TV show Friends for episode 166, called The One with Rachel's Big Kiss. Rachel runs into Melissa, played by Winona Ryder, a former sorority sister with whom she had once had a passionate kiss.
Take care, you guys. What? Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Okay, look. That night was the one wild thing I have ever done in my entire life, and I'm not going to let you take that away from me. Okay, so if you don't remember that, maybe you will remember this.
In August of 2001, Winona was diagnosed with a gastroenterological disorder while in London. This illness caused her to drop out of Lily and the Secret Planting, and her role was given to Kate Winslet instead. She was quite unhappy about this because she was very passionate about the film. Released in September of 2001, another Ben Stiller production, Winona made a cameo in the action comedy film Zoolander, starring Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Will Ferrell, Mia Jovovich, and Jon Voight. The film features a narcissistic, brainless male model, Derek Zoolander, played by Stiller, who becomes involved with corrupt fashion executives plotting to assassinate the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Let this wonderful 80s classic soothe you. Just a nice, warm, happy time. Happy, happy, happy. Ha, 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 ha. You can help these children, Derek, by killing the Prime Minister of Malaysia. He is bad.
What? On December 12th of 2001, Ryder was arrested for allegedly shoplifting over $5,000 worth of designer clothing and accessories from Saks Fifth Avenue in Beverly Hills. She was also in possession of pharmaceutical drugs to which she did not have a prescription, including oxys, diazepam, and Vicodin. She was caught after she left her credit card on the counter and walked out. She recalls that this was an act of self-sabotage. Psychologically, I must have been at a place where I just wanted to stop. I won't get into what happened, but it wasn't what people think. She was released on $20,000 bail and was ordered by the court to pay for the stolen merchandise. After her arrest, she went on to study constitutional law with regards to environmental activism. After sitting in on some lectures, she climbed up a 180-foot redwood tree where she stayed for almost a week. She was inspired by Julia Butterfly Hill, who had famously lived in a tree for 738 days to prevent its destruction. During this time, she had had a brief relationship with singer-songwriter Peter Yorn, but the two separated after she was arrested for shoplifting. In May 2002, Winona appeared in a Saturday Night Live episode featuring Winona Ryder and Moby.
Anything that becomes toast.
Everything is music. When I go home, I throw nickels into the oven and it's music. Crash, boom, bang! Choo, da, cha.
In June of 2002, co-starring Adam Sandler in the comedy Mr. Deeds, a remake of the 1930s Gary Cooper film Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, Winona made a comeback with a role as an undercover news reporter named Babe Bennett, who disguises herself to get closer to Longfellow Deeds, played by Sandler, to get information about the irregular circumstances in which Deeds inherited a massive fortune. The film received mostly negative reviews from critics, but did exceptionally well in the box office, earning over $120 million. I never broke a bone until that movie. Until I did Deeds. I broke my arm. We were shooting a scene where Adam and I were riding bikes down a long flight of stairs in Central Park. I was in heels and my heel got caught in the pedal. The funniest thing is we were just standing there, but I was totally showing off like an idiot. Suddenly I was on the ground and he was like, "Are you okay?" I got up and I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, no problem." And in the morning, oh my god, my arm hurts. I went to the doctor and it was broken in 3 places. Miraculously, they were just joint breaks, so you don't put those in a cast. In August of 2002, Winona starred in the sci-fi film Simone, alongside Al Pacino, Elias Koteas, and Jason Schwartzman. Ryder starred as Nicole Anders, who is replaced with a computer-simulated actress which refuses to finish a movie. This film went nearly unnoticed by critics, and they were barely able to recuperate their initial budget. In November of 2002, Winona was found guilty of the charges laid in 2001. She was convicted for grand theft over $5,000, shoplifting, and vandalism. She was ordered to serve 480 hours of community service and 3 years probation. She paid $3,700 in fines and $6,300 in restitution to Saks Fifth Avenue. She was also ordered to attend counseling. In 2003, Woody Allen wanted to cast Robert Downey Jr. and Winona Ryder in the film Melinda Melinda, but was unable to get insurance on either of them. What with Winona's recent run-in with the law and Robert's widely known rehab visits due to his struggle with drugs and alcohol. Released in mid-2003, Winona had produced and narrated a documentary entitled The Day My God Died. The film centers around the lives of young girls in India who are sold into the child sex slave trade, sometimes by their own family. It was filmed on location in Nepal, India, containing actual footage from brothels in Bombay known as the Cages, using advanced spy technology. The documentary also introduces those who are trying to prevent this from continuing. Some additional narrations were done by Tim Robbins.
According to the United Nations, 2,500 women and children throughout the world disappear every day to be sold into sexual slavery. Mina, Anita, and Miley are but 3 of the 15 Nepalese girls trafficked daily, often by someone they trust.
Also in 2003, Winona held a benefit called Ryder to the Rescue, highlighted by an art show. The exhibition was called Cruel and Unusual, an exhibition to benefit the West Memphis Three. Damien Eccles, Jesse Miss Kelly Jr., and Jason Baldwin became known collectively as the West Memphis Three, after they were tried and convicted in the 1993 murders of 3 boys. During the trial, the God-fearing prosecution asserted that the children were killed as part of a satanic ritual. The ultra-religious country town of Arkansas was less interested in the truth of the matter and became fixated on pinning the crime on the black sheep of the community, those pesky teenagers who wore dark clothing and listened to rock music. We believe a terrible injustice happened 10 years ago. An injustice that involves 6 young lives. 3 are dead, 3 are holed up in prison for crimes that we and millions across America believe they did not commit. Along with the many celebrities, as well as millions of Americans, even some of the parents of the victims stepped forward in support of the defendants and reassessment of the evidence. The art show was organized by the support group WM3.org and contained mainly West Memphis 3 themed art, donated by 20 nationally known artists. They fundraised over $20,000 to go towards efforts to have DNA testing done on the physical evidence from the crime scene. After revisiting DNA evidence in the case, the 3 were eventually released after agreeing to a rare plea deal called an Alford plea, which allowed them to maintain their innocence while pleading guilty. At that point, they had served roughly 18 years in prison. Other celebrities that vied for the support of the West Memphis Three were Doug Hutchison, Jello Biafra, Toby Maguire, lawyer Dan Stidham, and Arkansas Times editor Mara Levitt, author of Devil's Knot, the true story of the West Memphis Three. Another huge advocate for the West Memphis Three was Johnny Depp, who became fairly close with Damien Eccles.
You make a decision, and it's very simple, for anybody and everybody who saw those initial documentaries. You make a choice. Am I gonna watch the thing and go, oh wow, that's really horrible, and then go out and get a milkshake, or am I gonna go, you know what, that's just, I can't, I'm unable to swallow that.
The two have even gotten a number of tattoos together since Damien's release.
Johnny says when this is over, we've got to find a tattoo parlor. It's one of those things. He didn't just support us while we were in prison. He's been with us every single step of the way since we've gotten out. He's become like a brother to me. And that's one of the things we always do, just as part of that bond, is whenever you get tattoos like that, it's something that both of you carry with you through the rest of your life, and it's really meaningful.
We have some, Deb said, motioning towards a tattoo on the right side of his chest. This one Damien designed. It's one of my all-time favorites, and it means quite a lot to me. During the summer of 2003, Winona had dated Helmet frontman Paige Hamilton, and many of the songs on their 2004 album called Size Matters were inspired by Winona, but the couple split shortly after their album was released. June 18th, 2004, Winona's charges from the earlier shoplifting incident were dropped from felonies to misdemeanors. She claimed she was clinically depressed at the time, and that her doctor had prescribed medication that seriously clouded her judgment. Said doctor, Jules Mark Lussman, had his medical license revoked by the Medical Board of California for unethically catering to the demands of wealthy and or famous drug seekers for prescription narcotics, which would otherwise have to be obtained on the street. January 2006, in a film adaptation entitled The Darwin Awards, based on a website of the same name, was only broadcasted at film festivals. It featured stars such as Winona, as well as David Arquette, Wilmer Valderrama, and Chris Penn. Released in May 2006, Winona had another comeback with the adult animated sci-fi thriller A Scanner Darkly. With George Clooney listed as the executive producer, it was based on the novel of the same name, written by Philip K. Dick. Within a dystopian society that is plagued by a drug addiction epidemic under the constant surveillance of the authorities.
Legal? I mean, can you legally do that?
Yeah, they can't do that. They say Lisa can do that. I'll check. Hey, Donna, can I get anything from you?
Yeah, how much?
Starring Winona as Donna Hawthorne, alongside Keanu Reeves, Robert Downey Jr., and Woody Harrelson, this film had a limited release and performed very poorly in the box office. It was widely misunderstood and confused by most critics, seeing their offering of any type of review as a complete burden.
Even a 9-speed bike for $50, you still got a good deal.
Okay, those guys told me it was 18 speeds. I just got Greeked. Wait.
Now I count 8. 6 here, and then 2 in the front. That makes 8.
What do you think happened to the missing gears?
Think? I know. They were probably working on it, these gypsy grifters, with improper tools and no technical knowledge, no understanding of reverse engineering, and when they attempted to reassemble it, they panicked, they got scared, and they left 9 orphan gears. They're just laying on the floor. They're probably still there on the floor of the garage.
Let's just go rescue the orphan gears!
In a review for The Guardian, one critic wrote, "The movie is often startling and engrossing, but the question of what the heck is going on and why is never entirely absent from your mind." However, much like its predecessor, The Waking Life, released in 2001, it remains very popular among certain niche groups of film enthusiasts. In 2006, Winona dated Henry Alex Rubin. The two had met while working on Girl Interrupted. Henry made a mockumentary about Winona's shoplifting scandal, which she starred in, but it seems it was never released to the public. In August of 2007, Winona appeared in the religious comedy film entitled The Top 10, alongside Adam Brody, Jessica Alba, Paul Rudd, and Justin Theroux. This film was also a limited release and performed very poorly overall. In September of 2007, Ryder was reunited with the screenwriter from Heathers, Daniel Waters, in the dark sci-fi comedy film Sex and Death 101. It focuses on a wealthy businessman named Roderick Blank, played by Simon Baker, who receives an email on the eve of his wedding with a list of every one of his past and future sexual partners. This, too, was a complete commercial failure. By late 2007, Winona had dated Blake Sennett, a guitarist, for about a year. There were rumors that the couple had become engaged, but neither confirmed or denied it. In April 2008, Winona appeared in an obscure comedy drama called The Last Word, that first debuted at the Sundance Film Festival. The film is about a poet named Evan, played by Wes Bentley, that writes suicide notes for a living, when he meets Charlotte, played by Winona, a sister of one of his late clients who he becomes enamored with. Another notable appearance was Ray Romano from Everybody Loves Raymond. By the end of 2008, there were rumors about a romance between Winona and MTV's Tom Green, after the two were spotted going on a date. She was also rumored to have had a fling with British model James Gooding. Released in February 2009, in the romantic comedy The Private Lives of Pippa Lee, alongside Julianne Moore, Keanu Reeves, and Blake Lively, Winona made an appearance as Sandra Dulles. The film was based on the novel of the same name by Rebecca Miller and portrays the history of the life of Pippa Lee. The film was shown at a handful of film festivals, but was only given a limited release. Released in April 2009, based on a collection of short stories written in 1994 by Bret Easton Ellis, The Informers co-starred Winona, Billy Bob Thornton, Kim Basinger, Amber Heard, Mickey Rourke, and Brad Renfro. It includes 7 stories taking course during a week in the life of movie executives, rock stars, a vampire, and other morally challenged characters, set in 1980s Los Angeles. It was the last feature film for Renfro before his untimely death on January 15, 2008, at the age of 25.
Actor Brad Renfro was found dead in his Los Angeles apartment. The cause of death was not immediately known, but the 25-year-old actor had battled drug abuse.
To add insult to injury, the film was a tragic failure in the box office and with critics. Also in 2009, she made a brief appearance in the Star Trek film as Spock's human mother, Amanda Grayson.
Should I choose to complete the Vulcan discipline of Kolinar,
and purge all emotion. I trust you will not feel it reflects judgment upon you.
As always, whatever you choose to be, you will have a proud mother.
Released in April 2010, Winona starred in the TV movie When Love Is Not Enough, the Lois Wilson story. The film was based on the life story of Lois Wilson, founder of Al-Anon/Alateen. Her husband had returned from World War I and turned to drinking. The story is based around his struggle with alcoholism and eventually becoming sober and staying that way with the help of fellow alcoholic Dr. Bob Smith. They then founded Alcoholics Anonymous.
You're my husband, and I can't depend on you at all. I have prayed and I have fought for you like no one else. Why wasn't my love enough to make you stop?
After a handful of commercial failures and cameo appearances, Winona was cast as a retiring ballerina Beth McIntyre in the psychological horror epic Black Swan, released in December 2010. She was cast alongside Natalie Portman, Mila Kunis, and Vincent Castle. 28-year-old Nina Sayers, played by Natalie Portman, gets the lead role in Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. She's a great fit for the White Swan, but is unable to truly embody the Black Swan, which would be better performed by newcomer Lily, played by Mila Kunis. Nina begins to lose a grip with reality and her sanity as the pressure to compete and perfect her performance weighs down upon her. In spite of the small budget of $13 million, the film grossed over $325 million worldwide, and received great praise and excellent viewer reception. Released in January 2011, in the comedy-drama film produced by Ron Howard and Vince Vaughn, The Dilemma, Winona co-starred with Vaughn, as well as Kevin James, Jennifer Connelly, Channing Tatum, and Queen Latifah. The film follows the lives of Nick, played by Kevin James, and Ronnie, played by Vaughn, who are close friends and partners at an auto design firm. Ronnie sees Nick's wife Geneva, played by Ryder, kiss another man, Channing Tatum. Ronnie then has to figure out if and how he should tell his friend Nick. It received mixed reviews and only just recuperated the initial budget. Released in September 2012, she voiced Elsa Van Helsing in the animated horror comedy film Frankenweenie, directed by Tim Burton and produced by Disney. It was an all-black and white film following Victor Frankenstein and his dog. Other notable voice actors for this film were Martin Short and Catherine O'Hara. Frankenweenie won the Saturn Award for Best Animated Film and was nominated for an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, a BAFTA, and an Annie Award for Best Film in each respective animated category. It also did moderately well at the box office. Also in 2012, Winona appeared in the music video Here With Me for The Killers.
I want you here with me. Don't want your memory in my head, no.
Released in May 2013, Winona appeared in The Iceman, a biographical crime thriller as Deborah Kuklinski, wife of a contract killer. Based on the true story of notorious hitman Richard Kuklinski, played by Michael Shannon, alongside Ray Liotta and James Franco. The film was poorly received by critics and suffered a great loss. Released in November of 2013, she appeared in The Homefront, based on Chuck Logan's novel of the same name, adapted into a screenplay by Sylvester Stallone. She co-stars alongside Jason Statham and once again James Franco. The film had moderate box office earnings, but was very poorly received by critics. Between 2013 and 2014, Winona appeared in 2 episodes of Drunk History. First was Season 1, Episode 4, Boston, where she plays Mary Dyer and rages war against the Puritans. Secondly, Season 2, Episode 8, Philadelphia, where she plays Benedict Arnold's wife. Released in January 2015, she starred in Experimenter, a biographical drama based on the Milgram experiments in 1961. Stanley Milgram conducted a series of behavior experiments at Yale University. They tested the willingness for one to obey authority even if they were under the impression that they were causing harm to strangers.
The correct answer is box.
Kurt inefficious when saying correct.
75 volts.
Each time he administers a shock. Lips drawn back, bares his teeth.
They all seem to want to impress you for some reason.
Mm-hmm. But why? Why do so many, the vast majority, push all the way through to the final switch? Why is the Dutchman's defiance the anomaly instead of the norm?
Released in 2015, she appeared in the 4-part miniseries Show Me a Hero. The series followed those who were trying to build public housing in the white middle-class area of Yonkers in 1978. Starting in 2016 and continuing presently, Winona has a starring role in the Netflix original series Stranger Things, a sci-fi horror written and directed by the Duffer Brothers. After a young boy named Will Byers mysteriously disappears, the residents of a small town uncover secrets of a government lab. The boy's friends are joined by a little girl with telekinesis who escaped Hawkins' laboratory where she was being experimented on. Winona has a main role as Joyce Byers, Will's mother, and is joined by fresh faces from the Netflix casting couch. Millie Bobby Brown, who plays the telekinetic escapee named Eleven, has seen great success and recognition throughout the series, earning several awards since it began. At the Screen Actors Guild Awards, Winona became an instant meme sensation after pulling a series of strange faces during the acceptance speech. It was later said that because they didn't have mics on and there were no speakers at the front of the stage, it was really hard to hear the speech that David Harbour was making on their behalf. She couldn't hear me, Harbour told people at the Writers Guild Awards in New York Sunday night, which I was confused by because I was screaming, but apparently she couldn't hear me. It's a bit hard to believe this explanation when this is the first time we've seen a reaction of this sort of form from someone on stage during any acceptance speeches. Why do you guys think she was making such strange faces?
Forceful reminder to folks that when they feel broken and afraid and tired, they are not alone. We are united in that we are all human beings and we are all together on this horrible, painful, joyous, exciting, and mysterious ride that is being alive.
Although it hasn't officially been stated, many have speculated that Stranger Things is based on the clandestine human experimentation under Project Montauk.
According to the official story, the Camp Hero Air Force Base was a place to defend the east coast of the United States against Nazi attack during World War II. But then things get shady because after World War II, the United States recruited Nazi scientists and used them for a covert government operation that illegally recruited human subjects, runaway kids, for purposes of mind control, and some of the more elaborate stories are time travel, interstellar travel, interdimensional travel, and reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology.
Winona's most recent film appearance was a release in August 2018. Winona and Keanu Reeves were reunited in the romantic comedy Destination Wedding, as two strangers invited to the same destination wedding who are forced to get to know each other better. It was mainly released under digital distribution, so the earnings aren't quite clear, and it received mixed reviews. All in all, Winona isn't exactly dark by her own right. However, throughout her life, she's rubbed shoulders with many key players in life's game of good and evil, finding semblance of balance between the joys and tragedies. Deep within the dark and twisted recesses of Hollywood, Winona lives neutrally, reading a book and smoking a cigarette.
Winona be lit, ayy. Winona, Winona, Winona. Winona, Winona. What? Winona, Winona, Winona. Winona, Winona.